Cryptid Court music. Okay, so I was actually surprised by the pollers, the poll people, the people who took the poll, because they did not go. Yeah, they did not go for the ones I expected, did they?
No, they chose the most
obscure
one, yeah.
So on our list were Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of him?
No.
The Kraken.
What's that?
And Veo.
Of course.
So let's talk about Veo.
What is Veo?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be pro today, and you're going to be against, right? So the Veo is a cryptid from the island of Rinca in Indonesia. This island is known for being a really good place to see Komodo dragons if you don't want to go to Komodo Island because it's way less inhabited. This island has a cryptid called Veo, which is an enormous pangolin the size of a horse. And a pangolin is that little guy that has all the scales. He's like heavily trafficked for the scales because it can be used in Chinese traditional medicine. And it's really sad. And it's just a little guy. He's so vulnerable, even though he has all the scales. But the Veo is not vulnerable. The Veo is 10 feet long. It has bulletproof scales, and the underside is fur. It only comes out at night to eat termites, ants, and shellfish. It has a call that's like, hoo, hoo, hoo.
Like an owl.
Sure. And when it's threatened, instead of rolling up like a pangolin would, which makes it very vulnerable, it uses its claws to slash. That's in self-defense. It doesn't, attack people, probably. And it can swim between the islands. So, why don't you... I guess I'll say why the evidence that we have that is real. So, in 1956, the French naturalist Pierre Pfeffer went to the island, and a local hunter described it to him. And he was on the lookout for it, but he never saw it. But he got a good description, and that's where we have the information about it today. And that's what I got. How about you?
Well, I guess my first question is, how do you know it's just not a big pangolin that lives there?
Because pangolins have a totally different behavior pattern, and they don't get that big.
And what if it's exaggerated the size?
It's totally different. A pangolin is a prey animal, an animal that people are picking up by the thousands and shipping to China. They're so easy to catch. Compared to this creature that slashes you with its claws and really fights back. Well, in some
accounts it slashes. What if some of the sightings they just see it?
Well, I feel like it's too big. It's too big to be the same.
I don't know. I think some of the sightings could be I think it's the Sunda pangolin that lives there. But also, I guess the other one would be... What pangolin? Isn't it Sunda? Sunda?
Oh, okay.
Sunda pangolin. The Komodo dragons live on the island.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some of the pictures of the creature, it looks almost like a dragon, the way people draw.
Okay, but people were saying, yeah, it could be a Komodo dragon, but this is a local creature. The locals know about it, and the locals know the difference between a Komodo dragon and what they call the Veo. They were saying, yeah, we know about the Komodo dragon, but it's not that. So they've acknowledged that.
Who said that, though?
People were asked about it. They were like, nah, it's different.
Well, what if it's a different type of Komodo dragon that's slightly different?
What other type of Komodo dragon is there?
No, I'm just saying, what if it's there's a subspecies or something that's a little bit different, and that's why they distinguish between them?
I don't know.
Because a lot of the behavior sounds very similar. It swims, it hangs around the coast, has scales, it's 10 feet long.
Well, here's
even in one of the pictures, where they say it's as big as a horse, if you look at the diagrams, that's nowhere near as tall as a horse in the descriptions, maybe as long as a horse. Here's
something that it could be. There's an extinct pangolin species, a giant pangolin species called Manis paleojavanica or paleojavanica. It could be that. So that's a species of pangolin from the past that is now extinct, but it could be that they were seeing the last remnants of that species.
Maybe.
Another thing is someone at the time was saying, they're not really seeing it. They're seeing a dugong. That's crazy. A dugong does not come onto land and slash people with its claws, okay? So that is a very bad explanation.
Well, maybe it's a collection of things. If this thing swims, maybe some of the sightings could be a dugong, some of them could be a Komodo dragon, and some of them could be a pangolin, a regular-sized one that looked big.
And what do you think about the fourth theory I have written down here? I thought it was interesting.
Armored horses ridden by the early Portuguese explorers?
Yes. So there was a story about some locals who they were remembering, or maybe they were telling a story from one of their ancestors or something, but they basically encountered the Veo, and they saw it, and they just crouched down on the grass and hid because they didn't want to be attacked. And there was a theory that maybe what they encountered were Portuguese explorers slash colonizers there. And of course they were going to hide because that's scary and dangerous. And it has been like retold and retold, and that people have added that to the Veo tale.
Well, then couldn't it easily been someone retelling a story of a large pangolin or Komodo dragon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that that's really great for my case, but I just thought it was interesting. Should be mentioned. I think it's an interesting to have colonial trauma or trauma as a colonized state that manifests as a cryptid.
Yeah, that's another thing
because that would be horse-sized. People on a horse is horse-sized. Something that slashes at you, that could be people with a sword, right? And armor. What were you going to say?
So. Then why was a local hunter talking about it then?
Well, I'm just saying that could be something like either related or unrelated. Like, it doesn't have to be the same thing, but it's another story and another explanation of maybe some of the sightings and some of the stories. The hunter probably was talking about a real one.
Maybe. Another thing we get comments about this all the time, depending on what side we're on, where we like question if it could have been another animal, and people say the locals surely know the area better than anyone else. And that is true, but the thing is, a lot of these accounts aren't coming directly from the locals. They're coming from European explorers who went there. I don't know if they spoke the language that well, got some kind of an account from the locals, then brought it back and gave their own interpretation and their own translation of some creature that they saw or heard of. So, I don't know.
That's true. Here's another weird thing. I mean, it's not really related to this debate, but I was looking up articles about the Veo. Thing? Yeah, so I typed Veo cryptid, and then the title of this article is Veo, a modern cryptid. And I was like, okay, yeah, tell me about that. And it was talking about New York. And I was like, a modern cryptid in New York called the Veo? What? So the Veo's there now too? What are they talking about? No. There's some mysterious graffiti that has popped up this year, and people are writing Veo, okay? So what is that? And why would the writer of this article say it's a modern cryptid? Because what kind of cryptid leaves messages? That's just graffiti. But an interesting thing about this article is they were like, I was trying to figure out what Veo meant. I said, I found out it could be Spanish for look. It could refer to hobo code, which would mean that an area is unsafe and has no value and full of, like, losers, basically. It could be someone's initials. It could be an acronym. It could be an alchemical coding for water equals gold. So how come when they were writing about the cryptid Veo, how come they didn't learn about the cryptid Veo?
I don't know. It's very weird.
I'm thinking these graffiti artists believe that the Veo is out there in Indonesia. That's what I'm going to interpret.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably not even related at all.
I was just so silly that I found this. Yeah. So I don't really have a good argument for the Veo. I just think it's cool. It would be really cool if it was the prehistoric large pangolin. I like that it is so... I think it's a symbol of hope to have a pangolin species that can't be easily killed. It can stand up for the other pangolins. It's like an eco-warrior.
It's bulletproof, apparently,
or someone should make
a legend.
Yeah, someone should make a movie about the giant pangolin going to battle for the smaller pangolins. But yeah, I don't know. There's not really that much evidence for it, so...
An interesting cryptid, though.
Another thing is, some cryptid or mythological beings, they come from fossils, right? So, like, people were finding fossils of these ancient rhino things, and then they invented the unicorn. They found fossils of dinosaurs, and they invented the dragon. So maybe half of this, or some part of it, is related to finding fossils or remains of some kind of the giant pangolin, and then it, like, bloomed into this whole other thing with the sightings and just a mythological creature. What would you think about that?
Yeah, maybe.
I could buy that. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I'm glad that that's the one that was chosen.
Yeah, otherwise we'd have to debate if Bigfoot's real.
That's
What a
too
nightmare.
long a debate.
Anyway, we already have the proof.
Yeah,
So,
it was seen in Colorado.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to Q&A. So we have an email today.